Hi everyone, welcome to round 4 from Drip Drops games from the 2013 Major Open. And what I forgot to mention was in round 3, I forgot to mention how we did in the under 140s. Well, basically because in the morning there isn't any main championship games, they can use the live boards for morning events, and they decided to show the under 140 games for round 3. And he lost to Caroline Robson on a live board, which he was not very happy about. Because at one point the photographer Brendan O'Gorman came along and he decided to lash out with G4 right in front of the camera because it looks cool. But the problem was that G4 was a complete blunder and lost the game. Not good, man. But he did win in round 4. But it was a bit of a swindle, but a win's a win. Against Simon Selleck, so he put him on 50%, which isn't too bad. And this game in the Major Open, he was hoping to win against Nick Mahoney with Black, who, as you may recall, I played as well later on, also with Black. And you may recall why I played 1e6 against him. Well, here's your answer. The game went d4, knight f6. And now, because Drip Drops used an accurate move order, this now allows the crushing move Bg5. And interestingly enough, this was one day before Bg5 was born. Now, the reason why this move is just ridiculously annoying because it leads to the Chomposky attack, which is probably the only opening I know nothing about, and in fact I find it very dull as well. But I do know enough to know that 94 is the main move. There's an interesting line actually, which this opening contains the shortest Grandmaster game of all time, or Master game, because it went to c6. And White decided to play e3 like a complete moron, just losing the bishop with check, so he resigned. And if you want to see a game where I accidentally allowed the Chomposky, then please check out John Garnett v Tim Hilton for the second rapid. You will be amused at how quickly I lose. 94 was played, which is the main move, and I think you can play either. Well, Bishop 4 was played, but you can. The best move is supposed to be Bishop H4, and you can also play H4, which is known as the Raptor variation. Yeah, so these positions where you've got double pawns and you're down the bishop pair, but you get this H file attack, which seems to make up for it. Bishop 4 was played, D5, E3, E6. Not too keen on that, blocking the bishop in. I mean, where's this bishop going? Now, White decides to see this bishop pair advantage to double the pawns for some reason. I'm going to skip over a lot of this. H4. So it means if a knight comes to F4, it can never be kicked away by G5. So that's a good strategic move, it seems. Knight F6. Knight E2. Bishop E7. H5. For some reason, maybe trying to play H6 and probe the king's side if Black ever dares castle king's side. C6 was played for some reason. C3. In fact, this is weird because C3 and then after A5 he follows up with C4 for some reason. So basically, he could have played C4 in one move according to my calculations. You can play C4 in one move, can't it? It's a legal move. C4 now B5. And now C5 is played, which is interesting because it gains space and aims to eventually get a piece to D6, which Drip Drop lets him do for some reason. But it also weakens the D5 square, and Black gets a nice knight. But this position is slowly becoming favourable for White because Black's bishop pair isn't meaning nothing in this position because the bishop's all blocked in. And in fact, White's even got the better of the bishops. And White's knights can maybe find squares. But Black does have a good knight, so maybe this holds the balance. Bishop G3 was played. I'm not sure that's necessary because Black would never actually play knight takes F4, I hope. And here Drip Drop should be aiming to get his bishop into the game by A6. But he plays B4, which is a very bad strategical move because it's now justifying White's C5 advance because the knight can come into the E5 and D6 squares and even B6 potentially via C4. And White does not need a second invitation. And now Drip Drop sees the correct idea, move too late. The knight comes in with check. And now it's bishop's opposite colour. So after Queen G5, White is playing by the theme that pawns don't matter so much. The most important things in Bishop's opposite colour positions in the middle game are king safety and bishop activity. Both bishops are pretty good, but White seems a bit stronger. And Black's cat castle kingside. But I still think overall it isn't necessary to sacrifice the G2 pawn. Just play G3. I mean, maybe he's worried about this sack, but it's nothing. The sack is absolutely nothing whatsoever. And after G3, okay, it does weaken a few squares, but they're not weaknesses if they are not exploitable, as King's Crusher would say, as I stated numerous times, at least 52 times in one video. And so I think this Queen D2 move, preparing to castle long, is rather unnecessary, and just play G3 first, then play it. Queen takes G2, of course. Rook G1. Queen H3. I think Queen F3 is also a good move. Now, for some reason, he doesn't take this pawn, and decides to castle instead. Now it takes drop one's another pawn, and in this position, White has got enough compensation for one pawn, yes, but certainly not two pawns. Although what drip drop has to be careful is G7 pawn doesn't get hacked off the board. The bishop comes back to E5 to try and hack the G7 pawn off the board. Now drip drop decides to swap the pair of pieces off, because when you're ahead you want to swap pieces off. And now he plays a good move, he protects his pawn and unpins the Rusky. Rook H1, H6, protect the pawn, and now the other rook comes to G1. So drip drop does have to be careful, there's quite a bit of pressure on his king side, but now he castles out of it all at move 25. So in this game, both sides castle at move 20 and 25. This game is actually very exciting for a Chomsky game, because usually Chomsky games are not exciting, the slightest bit exciting. Queen E3, which is a very bizarre move, doesn't even do anything. He needs to summon it quicker. Maybe Rook H2, preparing to put the rook on G2, then drop off to play something like this, which is quite passive. But he plays Queen E3, trying to get the swing across the queen across to G3. Now the bishop comes into D3, which is a very nice square. And it also reminds me of drip chop's D6 bishop, the D3 bishop, Queen to G3. And now G5 would practically stop all of White's threats, because if takes, his pawn can never be captured, and drip drop should win this position, 2 pawns up. But he plays Queen D7. He hasn't made his basic plan is to play Queen D5, Queen C4, and Queen C2 and Queen E2 mate. That is quite a nasty threat. So the bishop comes into D6 to stop that, but he could have played Queen takes G7 in this position, which actually works, because if Rook takes, and after Rook takes, if he doesn't give his Queen up for the Rook, say he plays Queen D5, then White can play Rook C7 check, King B8, and now the only move is to play Rook D7 check, because it wins the Queen back. And in this position, he also gets this pawn, and it's about equal. But maybe White has a better practical chances. But the bishop opposite colour will probably make it drawn. So after maybe this, he can give his Queen back. But the problem is now he's going to lose his other pawn, the H pawn as well. But after this continuation, this is actually very good for Black. Black gets initiative back. So in fact, White should not take the pawn actually, and actually try and keep up the pressure with Bishop E5. Now the only way to defend is to play Rook G6, but Black can also play Rook G2. And this seems actually very good for Black after this. In fact, E3 just seems to win, so maybe Queen takes G7 was as good as it looks, but drip drop would have to see that he has to give his Queen back, which is not easy to see. But now A4 was played, I'm not sure about this move, because it can always answer B3 by A3 and A3 by B3. And now Queen comes into G6, trying to cause some trouble and swindle the game. Rook D8. King D2. And now Queen B7 was played, which is not a good move. Instead, Bishop C4 should have been played, which stops any of the potential nasties on E6. And if Rook takes A6 is played, like in the game, then actually you can actually just take it. Because after Queen takes, Rook takes, King B7, check, and the king slithers away. The problem is, after Queen B7 is played, the king doesn't have an escape anymore, so white sacks his rook for perpetual, which never actually happened. Well, it's perpetual if it's taken, because then we have this, and then this is forced. Because white shouldn't grab the queen, because it'll just be a pawn down there for nothing. Not good. But B3 was played, so A3 has to be played, otherwise white is toast. And now Bishop C2. And now it gets very exciting because the game's decided by one temple. Yes, one minuscule temple decides this game. Rook H3 is played. Bishop D3. Rook comes back to H7. Bishop A6. So you see, Drip Chop's plan is to play Queen B5 and Queen to D3 or E2, and mate will follow very shortly. But now Rook takes G7 is played, and it seems that white is going to get there quicker. Because if Queen takes G7, then there is a beautiful move, Queen takes E8 check. Rook takes E8, Rook takes G7. Well, white has a very good ending with a Rook on the 7th, and black's very passive. But Drip Chop plays Queen B5. So now in this position, there's actually 2 wins for white in this position. There is a very mundane win. In fact, there's actually 3 wins for white in this position. I thought it was just either white sees his nice move or it's lost, but there's actually 3 ways to win. Cookie can win spot all 3, but the one which is played is the beautiful one, which is a forced mate. If you want to try and spot it, please stop the video now. Okay, now we resume. Rook C7 check and King C1 both win, but the forced mate is to sack the queen. She's quite a nice, not like that. Sack the queen, and the game ends because he got taken and he takes this rook, tosses his rook away, and then check, and it's going to be a mate on the back rank soon. So that was a very nice finish that, but Drip Chop should have won. It was up material. But sadly, I lost by 1 tempo. Not good. But it was quite an interesting game. And this also meant that Drip Chop sadly got given the sympathy buy for round 5. But this was actually quite good for a number of reasons. One, him and Steve Crockett went to the commentary room and was showing his buy because Steve wasn't playing until the weekend during the evenings. He'd only just got there on the Friday. And that's where the jokes about Ravi saying 5 instead of 5 were created. Because in commentary we started going Bg5 afterwards. Because Lee actually decided to play the weekender. In the end, it meant they didn't have to have a buy in round 1. But then there's the bad point where they messed the draw up a bit, where usually the top half plays the bottom half. But he ended up playing someone with the same ECF as him for some reason. And he actually played very badly because he treated him like they were a weak player, so he played fast and blundered and lost in 20 odd moves with white. He wasn't very happy afterwards, and then when he put the game down afterwards, when he was in B-Vita, he called it Drip Drop Gets Hammered and called the guy who beat him a GM. Even though he only got 3 out of 5 and lost to DeSantos in round 2, which makes him anything but a GM. And in round 5 of the under 140, he got a quite good draw against a 140 odd, who was obviously below 140. The previous list, called Charles Costello, who actually plays for the same club as King's Crusher, it seems. So he finished on 2.5 out of 5 in the under 140, which isn't too bad, but could have been a lot better. And he has a sympathy buy, which puts him on the same points as me, as you may recall from the my series, because I had that horrible start. But I hope you enjoyed this game and video, and we'll be back for round 6 later, so please leave any comments and thoughts. Thanks very much.